Hello, everybody. Welcome to Music Talk. I'm Dave. I'm in my home studio in North Carolina.
And I'm Mike. I'm out here in Olympia, Washington.
Is that your apartment or?
Yeah, it's my neighbor's apartment. He don't know I'm here. No, it's
Okay.
not.
All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do some album and CD reviews, and then we're going to talk about all kinds of music topics. And today we're going to do an album it's a new album by Wishbone Ash.
Yep.
Called Coat of Arms. And Mike, I don't know how much you were into Wishbone Ash back in the day, but I didn't even know they had a new album out.
Yeah. I wasn't a big follower of Wishbone Ash. I was more into, the more progressive stuff. Well, I mean, I guess they were considered progressive, but to me they were laid back compared to stuff that I was listening to.
Yeah, I did a little research on them, and I mean, they came out obviously 1970.
Yeah.
And I guess they're best known for like dual guitars, harmony guitar parts.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of what Wishbone Ash was doing was kind of overridden by Savoy Brown.
Yeah.
I think Savoy Brown kind of took that main road there. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, that was the direction I leaned in, I mean, I was just all over that,
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't notice on this album here with Wishbone Ash, this new one, the drummer, Joe Crabtree,
mm-hmm.
He was also the band called Pendragon.
Yeah.
And also worked with David Cross, which I didn't know this. David Cross was at one time a member of King Crimson. I didn't know that.
Well, that's funny because John Wetton apparently was with Wishbone Ash for a little while, who also sang with King Crimson. So yeah, I found that out a little bit earlier too. But it looks like the only original member now is Andy Powell.
Yeah, Andy Powell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the guy, Bob Skeet on bass, he's been there since like 1997. And he actually played with Toya Wilcox. I don't know if you know who that is, but she's married to Bob Robert Fripp.
Robert Fripp, yeah. She's a pop icon.
Yeah, she's kind of.
I see her on Facebook all the time.
Yeah, she's got some good videos out right now, so I should check those out. And then they got this guy named Mark Abrahams. And I think he's bringing a little bit of the, fire to the band. Because, I mean, his guitar sound he's got some nice tones going on here.
Yeah, I saw a rundown of his equipment. I was kind of amazed. I mean, he's all over the map. He's between Gibson. I mean, he's got some custom built guitars and stuff that he's using.
Yeah,
pedal board, it's all over the place,
Yeah, I really like some of the tones he gets though. I mean, some of that stuff he's doing on there is really nice. Just a quick rundown on the songs. The first one, We Stand as One.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Coat of Arms and Empty Man. And those three, I mean, We Stand as One, it's got a good riff, but I feel like it kind of is very repetitive. I do like it. It's really nice, but I almost wish they would have cut it in half as far as how many times they played it. I like it though. Don't get me wrong.
But you got to admit they've got a lot of songs on this album. I mean, it's 11 tracks.
Yeah, it's 11 tracks. Yeah,
pretty long. I think it's over an hour long.
Yeah, it's a good album. I mean, when I first put it on and listened to it, I was like, man, this is a really good sounding album. And then of course I started to get into it a little more. There was a couple things in there. I mean, the first 3 or 4 songs, they're all good. I feel like it's kind of like the drums seem to change. Their sound changes a little bit to me in just about every song. Yeah. I don't know if it's me or if it's how they were recorded, but sometimes, they have a really high end going on with the snare and hi-hat. And I don't know, it's just kind of, but then other times, like on that song, Drive. I think Drive has probably the best drum sound. The only thing I didn't like about the drum sound on that was it seemed like they were compressing the cymbals. They weren't really ringing.
Right.
Like they would hit and then fade,
Yeah. I think a lot of what was going on there is the approach is old school.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got old school and new technology in the studio mixing up. And I know from times that I've spent in the studio, like, I mean, I know I did this on a couple of occasions, walk in using the kit after I was tuned it up and everything, and I had a Craviotti snare on the kit. And I had my Pearl Sensitone with me too. So just out of the blue, I decided to trade them out. And I go into the control room after we did a song and listened to the playback. And there was no difference in the snare sound, which is telling me that basically the engineer was actually using a sampled sound, which was triggered by the real snare.
And I imagine you get a lot of that nowadays. Because I mean, I don't know, to me, at times on this CD in particular, it seemed like the bass and drums were a little bit too loud almost. I don't know how you feel about it, but it was almost drowning out some of the rhythm guitar. And
I heard that too. I think it's a strong rhythm section. I really like the way they played.
Yeah, I mean, they're tight, very tight.
Tight and simple. It wasn't stuff you had to sit there and think about,
Yeah.
I mean, you heard it and it fit. It was.
I mean, it's definitely, as overall, the CD is a good rock and roll CD. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think if I had anything negative to say, which I probably already sounded like I've been negative, but I'm not. I'm just trying to, do an honest what I hear. But the only negative thing is I feel like the vocals are a little weak. Is about the only thing that really didn't grab me. The vocal work really didn't grab me. And I almost feel like they needed to fatten it up some. In some areas, it was kind of really shallow. And, I don't know.
It reminded me a lot, and I've got some notes here that, which I was just, trying to keep a perspective on it. But it sounded to me like it had touches of old Fleetwood Mac and Savoy Brown mixed. I mean, Savoy Brown a little bit with the guitar sounds and stuff. The vocals kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to Hypnotized by Fleetwood Mac, you've got that same type of vocal that's just, to me, when I hear somebody singing rock and roll or singing in general, you want to hear power and punch behind the vocal, and it was too smooth at times. Yeah,
especially when you had such a fat, tight rhythm section, and really nice tones, guitars, and then the vocals were just, kind of like there. It wasn't like it was almost like the vocals, the sound of the vocals was an afterthought, sort of, almost. I don't know. And I mean, the guy's like probably 70s singing. I mean, Andy Powell, he's got to be. Yeah. I think I found out he was like 71, I think. So, So, I mean, obviously at 71, you're not going to have that powerful vocal that you said. But again, I'm not familiar with old Wishbone Ash, which I guess I should have probably listened to some of that too. But I don't really know what the vocals were like in the 70s and 80s, which, by the way, this is their 23rd album. So
I know.
That's a lot of albums.
They had something like 12 live albums that they.
Is that what it is? Is this? I guess that includes. 12,
But I think that's in addition to the studio albums.
So 23 plus 12 albums live.
So let me.
That could be. I didn't really get into all that too much. I will say though that there were a couple songs that I really liked. One of them was the 6th track called "It's Only You I See."
Right.
And I really like that. I like the way they did the the dual guitar work. It panned. They had it panning like, you know, back in the old days, you put your headphones on and,
Right.
you know, do the things you do to make enhance the sounds that you want,
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is you wanted to see the walls change into, whatever. But I like the way the panning of the headphones were. And then weirdly enough, I thought Personal Halloween was a really good song. It's got a really good blues riff, man.
Yeah, I thought that too.
And it's got a cool horn section in there. And a couple of these songs, his vocals were really like, you know, better on that. Like, you know, track 6 was a really good vocal track, and the same with Personal Halloween.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of the other ones at the end, like Back in the Days, kind of like sounds like a tribute to say thank you for hanging with us since the 70s. You know, we've been around 50 years and all that stuff.
Right.
And that was a pretty cool nod to the fans, I feel like.
Yeah. Deja Vu. I mean,
that one
I didn't really listen to the lyrics a whole lot, and I was more listening to production overall and what was going on. I think it was Empty Man. That's the one that had that kind of a simple takeoff on the Rosanna type shuffle. It was just real.
Yeah, that one, I have a note on that one that actually it kind of reminded me a little bit of Little Feat in a way.
A little bit.
I mean, just the guitar work kind of reminded me of some stuff Little Feat used to do. And then it had a reggae feel, even sort of like you know, like Men at Work, that Men at Work song.
Right. Yeah.
I Come from the Land Down Under. It kind of had that same kind of feel about it. It was an interesting song though.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it kept my attention. You know?
Yeah, and the words, I didn't get into them much, but it seemed to me like it was kind of a nod on people that have a lot of money and they didn't have anything inside. You know, like they were missing, you know, their soul, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they just had everything they wanted, but they were still empty.
Right.
That's kind of what, I mean, I didn't, you know, seriously get into it. I just kind of picked up a few things here and there because, you know, overall, I think, I mean, I would recommend this record. I mean, really, I think if you're a guitar player, especially, there is some really good guitar riffs, some good guitar tones. There's a lot of double harmony stuff in there. I really like it. The bass playing is tight, like you said. The rhythm section, you know, it's like they've been playing for years. You know, I mean, and they probably have. I mean, I think Bob's been in the band since '97 and Joe since '07. So, you know, they've been together for, you know,
13, well, I mean, you still got
years.
At least a 25-year connection between, you know, Andy Powell and Bob, you know.
Right, I mean, exactly. So, you know, the writing, it's very good writing.
Yeah, Crabtree's been there for like 10, I believe. I think it was 10 years.
Yeah.
He's been involved in it. And I got to tell you, it was refreshing. I'm so glad to I don't know, I'm just so glad to hear
good old
stuff
fashioned
being broken down simple, you know, being put down simply, but yet it's still entertaining, you know. And like I said, you know, to me, we'll take AC/DC for example. Their stuff is just rock bottom simple, just hard driving. And when you're driving you down the road traveling, you just crank it up, you know, and nod your head as you move.
No frills, man. Just right in your face, rock and roll.
Yeah, and you know it's about women, beer, and doing whatever. You know?
Right. No, I will give them. There was a couple of songs on here that had a little more deeper meaning than, you know, partying and women. But you know, the first time I heard it, the first thing I thought of was, I need to text Mike and say, man, have you heard the new Wishbone Ash? Because, like I said, I was never into them. I don't know a lot about them. Obviously, I've probably heard a song or two passed by them, but I don't know the band that well, not well enough to tell you much about their history or anything. Mm-hmm. But I will say the same thing you did. It was nice to put on a good rock and roll album. It wasn't a lot of overproduction. It didn't sound like it was washed out with all this digital enhancement.
Right.
You know, it sounded like they plugged in the studio and played. And I think some of the sounds of the drums that were changing a little bit might be because of that. It was just, hey, here we are. You know, what does it sound like today? Well, that's the way it's going to sound on the record. So I'm like you. I thought it was refreshing to hear an album that was just a straight up rock and roll album. I mean, there's no digital enhancements hardly. The sounds were probably just they plugged in, and that's what you got. And I like it. I really do.
Yep. Yeah. One thing that I was afraid of when I first started listening to the album, especially through the first 2 songs, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be pretty much the same thing all the way through. But after that, the 3rd song, it started changing up, you know, a little bit with the rhythms and stuff and the approach.
Yep.
And the thing I will say, even though I felt like the vocals are a little bit lacking, I didn't get tired of listening to the album.
No,
It
you're
didn't.
right.
It didn't fatigue me at all. I mean, it's one of those I could put it in the background and listen to the whole thing and not really give
Exactly.
it a second thought. You know,
If you were having a party, or if you were at a party, or if you were at a concert and somebody kicked this thing on, you wouldn't walk away. I mean, I've heard albums where I was like, man, I can't wait for this song to be over. But on
Right.
this one, I mean, there was something going on in every song that I could just hang on and say, man, you know, I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah.
I really like this. And I agree with you on the vocals. It may, even though it was a little bit weaker than maybe they could have made it, but it wasn't drawing me away. I mean, it wasn't pushing me away. And I'm like, you know, I mean, it's good. It's good stuff. I mean, there was a couple times where I felt like later in the album, you heard some of the stuff again that you heard in the beginning, but it wasn't too much
Right,
that it
but-
was just overbearing. There, you know, it was just a good rock and roll album, man. And I mean, if you want just a good in your face, straight up rock and roll album, I think you got to get this. You got to listen to it.
I agree. I agree. It's just, it's typical old school,
Yeah.
you know, and I remember as a kid
struggling to learn play the parts that the drummer was playing in this album. I mean, now a lot of the stuff he did was pretty much, you know, in every drummer's toolkit, you know.
Yeah.
But
Right. And I think that
he was
that's
very
the thing-
tasteful. He was very tasteful doing it.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the way I felt about the bass too. I mean, it wasn't like so much where you were getting lost trying to hear what he was doing. I mean, everything fit.
Right.
You know. So
Right.
you
Yeah, and
definitely
knew where he
had
was going.
that strong
Right.
rhythm section, you know. I like
Yeah,
it.
you didn't have to second guess the song
No,
to feel it, you know.
Yeah.
And
you don't have to be,
that's
you don't have to overthink it. It's there. It's right there.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what music's all about, man.
So what I'm thinking is I'm going to rank it by guitar picks, and you can rank it by
Okay.
drumsticks.
okay.
out of 10 guitar picks, I say I'd give it a 7. I mean, it's a 7.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking 7 to an 8, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can break a pick in half to
Right.
7.5 picks, but I would. I mean,
I could
7.5.
shatter
I'm a bass
I-
player, man. These are my picks.
Yeah, you know, it to me, it just,
It was good. I mean, I
Yeah, it
don't
was
know
good.
if ranking's the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know. But
well,
I
I
mean,
would recommend people go out and get it, you know,
Yeah.
especially people that,
Are musicians, but also you got audiophiles out there too
Mhm.
that you want to hear the old school stuff. You're not hearing power shots on the snare drum, the whole thing.
No.
It's a true snare drum sound,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't power shots on the drums at all, and I love that.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
I
I
love
think
that old school. I mean, that's the way I prefer to play. I do not like rim shotting to get my snare out there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was it seemed like they had a good time making it. They just went in there and did their thing, and that's, you know, I
Yeah.
dig it. I dig it.
well, I think, what was it,
Well, since what's his name, Mark Abrams has been in the band, he's done 300 tour dates with them.
Yeah, that's incredible, actually.
You know.
Considering that they haven't been able to play in a year.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
And he's
these
been
guys
there,
are these guys are on the road killing it, man. I mean, in
Yeah.
2 years,
Yeah.
time, they're killing it, man.
Yeah.
So good album. I recommend it. Go out and buy it, or however you want to purchase it, download it, buy it, however. So that brings us to the topic of the day, which is a good topic for me. I love this topic because I love live music.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong about studio stuff. I like studio stuff, but there's nothing like going to a show or listening to a live album and actually hearing them do it. There's you can't hide.
Exactly.
These are the guys. This is it. So we're going to try to go through our top 5. It's hard to do because, every time I look at my list, I'm like, man, there's so many I keep forgetting. But
I'm not even worrying about a list.
well, I have a list because I'll forget, So it's not a list of how I want them to be ranked. It's a list of I don't want to forget it because I remembered it and I wrote it down. So, but I would have to say, and I hate to put these in order because I really don't have a favorite. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to give you one that would be in my top 5, and they're not going to be in order because I don't like that. I don't think one thing's better than another. I'm just going to say top 5 live recordings, and this could be CDs, DVDs, anything that was, out there that you can buy. And I'm going to have to go with Led Zeppelin's Song Remains the Same, man. That, and these are all going to be albums that did something for me, changed how I played, or, gave me a little something to help with my playing. And that one, I tell you, John Paul Jones is probably one of my favorite bass players of all time. And you just can't go wrong with that Led Zeppelin.
Oh, I agree with that.
So that's one of my top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
So who you got?
I think one of mine. Oh God.
See, you should have made a list.
No, I've got it here. I think one of mine is honestly, Grand Funk Railroad.
That's
live,
great.
double live album.
That was a great album.
That album, and considering Led Zeppelin 2 taught me more about rock and roll drumming than any other music I think has ever hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don Brewer, he breaks it down, man.
Yeah.
Writing that album, it's broken down. It's right there. It's ABCs of playing rock and roll drums.
Yeah, man, that's a great live album. Well, I'm gonna go to another one of my top 5, and this one here. When I saw this DVD, it's almost like a tribute, sort of, but it's going to be Government Mule, The Deepest End live.
Okay.
It's kind of a tribute to Alan Woody.
Yeah.
So this whole concert, it's like a bass player's, smorgasbord, basically. Every song or two, he's bringing in a different bass player to play these songs. And what can you say about Warren Haynes? The guy's incredible. He can play anything.
Yep.
I don't know what the drummer's name is for them, but the guy, when he plays, it's like he doesn't even touch the drums. It's just unreal. Mm-hmm. Everything's just so fluid with him. And it's just, he's got the best touch, man. I tell you, I don't know. I wish I'd have wrote his name down. But anyway, the live Government Mule, Deepest End, probably it's definitely an all-time top 5 for me. I love that thing. I've got it on CD, DVD, and if I had an 8-track player, I'd have bought it on that too.
Yep.
So
there you go.
That's another one of mine.
Yeah, another one of mine. Believe it or not, it's Allman Brothers, Fillmore East.
Man, I had that on my list. It's not in my top 5, even though I don't know why it's not. Great live album.
That album there, that showed me what the blues is all about.
Yeah.
As far as approaching it from our side of the tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It opens up with what? Statesboro Blues.
Oh my God.
Isn't that the first song on there?
Yep.
It's like, when you hear that, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, to get the full Fillmore East thing though, you got to buy Eat a Peach too.
Yeah.
There's live cuts off of there too.
Right.
But
great album.
That album there really opened my eyes to something more than rock and roll. Of course, we both grew up on country because of Dad.
Right. But you had a taste of that a little bit. It wasn't, you could see, you could definitely apply what we've learned through the years
yeah.
through country to the blues, Southern rock, kind of
yeah.
like a,
Well, a quick story, when I joined Boot Hill Express, here's the way this whole thing went down. I had just got back I had been out of the military for a year. I had spent most of it just hanging out, drawing unemployment, just being stupid. And decided to come on back.
just being a drummer, right?
Well, I wasn't even playing drums.
Oh,
I was just hanging out.
You were prepping.
Yeah. And I came back to Norfolk, and Dad was playing the Greenville Inn. So I decided to go in there. Okay, well, it wasn't really a country band. Yeah. Just a long-haired bass player. Doc wasn't even there this night. And Dad started ribbing Rick. Rick Price was head of the band. And Dad started ribbing him and says, "Why don't you let my son sit in and play drums?" And Rick's like, "Great."
Yeah.
Doc's gone. I got to front the band. And Kenny wants his son to sit in playing drums.
Yeah.
I sat in, and from the first song, Rick turned around, looked at me, and we just locked in, and we were just, there we were.
And,
we were a rhythm section.
And still a rhythm section to this day.
But here's the funny thing. Never in my life had I ever, now this is about a week later, I kept going in and I kept sitting in, and Norm and Gerald, he would just go home. I just finished the nights for him. So Rick turns around and looks at Doc, says, "You want to try One Way Out?" I'd never played it before in my life.
Yeah.
It's two drummers playing that damn song.
Right.
I had to sit back there and figure out how to play two drum parts at one time. And we started the song, and it didn't take long. It just,
well, you have two hands.
Fell into place.
You have two hands, man. What's the problem?
Yeah. And what's really funny about that story is I was watching Todd Suckerman, Styx's drummer. He does all these tutorials and stuff. He had this video where him and Tommy Shaw's part was all taped.
Yeah.
They did One Way Out. And Todd Suckerman played it the same way I figured out how to play it as one drummer.
So he stole it from
weird.
You. He stole it from you, man. He owes you copyright material on that.
I ought to jump him.
Jump him for it. In case y'all are wondering, Mike's a drummer. Been playing drums since, 14 years old?
I started in the 5th grade. I was 10, 11 years old.
So that was about what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that.
54 years ago, man. Good God.
Don't tell your age, man. Don't tell your age.
I did.
Right, I'm gonna give you another album.
About that.
Huh?
I'm still lying about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was thinking, I was trying to add it up. I'm like, I'm not even gonna say nothing. So my next live album, which, by the way, everybody out there listening, we're gonna ramble quite a bit. So you may pick up some nice stuff. You may not. You may be interested in our stories. You may not. But you can always,
just drop us a line. Tell us what we've done.
Tell us to shut up. Tell us to add more. Tell us whatever you want to do. I do want in the future. I do want to bring in some of our musician buddies and have some interviews here, and maybe some local people on both ends of the coast. I'll have the East Coast. You can do the West, and then we can let people plug their shows if we ever get out there to play again.
Yeah, maybe I can get the Thunderbirds drummer up here.
Hey, anybody. All you gotta do is shoot them an email, man, and we'll put them on, and maybe our stories will be even more interesting.
He's down in Portland.
Yeah.
Met him down there, the Blue Diamond.
All right, so our next album, live album, and again, these are not in any kind of order, and I'm gonna go. And this one I could go with any one of their live albums, but I'm going to pick Rush's Exit Stage Left for just the fact of the songs on that album live that they played, which is unreal. I mean, you're talking Spirit of Radio, Xanadu, The Trees, La Villa Strangiato. I mean, that live album there was just musical perfection in the live atmosphere, and it's just that's always going to be in my top. I mean, there's no way. I had to go with that one. I mean, All the World's a Stage was great. Show of Hands, all those are great. But this particular one, when they came out there and they're playing their double necks and feet and hands and singing, and it's just unreal.
Yep.
I mean, you know, what can you say about that?
Well, I know. Yeah.
All right, so give me
They're
another
all-
one for you.
All fantastic technicians. What they
Yeah.
did, all
For
three
three
of
for
them.
three dudes, man. You know, you'd think 8 people were on that stage.
Yeah,
It takes 8 people to recreate one of their songs. All
I'm sure it does. Sure it does.
right, what you got? What's your next one?
Oh, I got to go. Little Feet, Waiting on Columbus, man.
Great.
I'll tell you what, man. I never in my life, if I'd have blindly heard those boys and knew nothing about them, I'd have swore up and down they were from Louisiana.
Yeah.
You know, they're
I mean-
doing that Cajun stuff, man.
And a fun band.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can't help but smile when you hear them playing, man. I mean,
God.
you know,
But Richie Hayward on drums.
I mean, what did they have? Like, how many guitar players did they have? 3?
There's 3 of them.
3 of them, yeah. I mean, you're talking about
3 of them. Yeah.
some harmony guitar, man. I mean, them guys
Yeah.
were nailing
Lowell
it. man.
Lowell George he got a start. Well, he didn't get a start, but he got picked up and thrown into the limelight with Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa hired him because of his technique and his skills on playing slide guitar. And also, too, I mean, he knew he was a songwriter, but he was a good vocalist.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but
That's a good album, man.
yeah, but
Yeah, live, all them dudes tearing it up live.
Zappa couldn't contain him,
Yeah.
so he encouraged him and helped him go out, branch out on his own, and that's how
Yeah. That's how Little Feet came.
how
to be.
Little Feet began to be formed. Lowell George and Richie Hayward, the drummer, they met and started pulling the band together. And if you've ever watched F Troop, there's an episode where Lowell George and Richie Hayward are in there, and they're playing in a band, come in on the stagecoach, and they're called the Bed Bugs.
The Bed Bugs. That's pretty funny, actually. So Little Feet. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you another one. This one here, you may, I actually played some of this for you before, but when I don't know how this guy slipped through my hands back in the 80s and stuff, but I mean, I didn't discover him until, well, it's been a while now, but definitely more recent than the past, but it's Richie Kotzen. I mean, Richie Kotzen live in Japan with his 3-piece band is just, and of course, you know, he actually plays with the Winery Dogs as well. But just something about that DVD with him in Japan with Mike Bennett and Dylan Wilson. I mean, them 3 together was just, I mean, wow, what a show. And it changed me a little bit because I'm like, man, you know, what am I need to start doing better. I'm seeing these guys, man. And I mean, they're just flat out tearing it up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's not like it was super structured like a Rush would be. It was just, you know, we're going to get up here and we're going to rock and we're going to play everything that, you know, everything I like. That's for sure. I mean, it was that one, that was a surprise to me. I mean, like I said, I don't know how he slipped through my fingers all these years. I mean, I know he played with Poison and Mr. Big and all them bands like that, but just that his solo stuff to me, man, is just unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Love it.
I got to tell you, Ronnie Scott's Jeff Beck.
Yeah. I have that on the list. I have it on the list, man.
You know what? But here's the thing now, okay? You do know that prior to that show at Ronnie Scott's, that same night, Jeff Beck had an old time, what do you call it, Roadhouse rock band that he played with prior to that, and they had this stand-up singer, and it was just killer.
Yeah.
They did a whole hour before.
that DVD.
Yep.
mean,
And I
what a-
mean, it's on YouTube. You can pull it up.
But I mean, what a
It's
band.
incredible, man. Rockabilly stuff, you know. It's like, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, but look at the band on the Ronnie Scott DVD. I mean,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
you got Tal playing
Yeah.
bass.
Yeah.
Vinny on drums. I mean,
Yeah.
what unreal, dude.
I can't think of the keyboard player's name. I think he was from Dream Theater, I believe.
Was he? He could
I
be.
think so.
I can't think of it either, and I should know this, but
Yeah, I should know his name too. I feel
Yeah.
bad about
Has-
not being called his
y'all,
name.
this is what happens when you get old out there. I'm just letting y'all know. When you get old, you can't remember things.
Let
That's
me
why I
drink
have-
another beer. I'll think about it.
That's why I have lists. And then, all right, I'm gonna go with another one of my top 5. This will be 5 for me.
Okay.
And I'm going with Allison Krauss and Union Station, man. I mean, that live DVD they put out in 2002 from Louisville.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that is just another musical perfection album. I mean,
Oh, I could go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you.
you had Dan, Ron Block, you had,
Yep.
I would say Dan's last name, but I always mess it up. I think it's Treminsky or Treminsky. I don't know. Y'all can correct me in the
Jerry Douglas.
Jerry Douglas, Barry Bales.
Yep.
You know, they were all could sing too, and that was
Oh, yeah.
just crazy, man. What an album. And her voice, I mean, Allison's voice is like an angel. It
Yep.
really is. And I've got stories to tell about some of this stuff, but we go into those later.
Oh, yeah.
But
The,
I mean, when she sings that song, There's a Ghost in This House,
Yeah.
which I think was done also by Old Dominion. Didn't they do a version of that? I
I
believe.
think so.
But anyway, when she sings it, man, it just sends chills down me. I don't know. That is going to be one of my all-time favorites. It always will. It's a great CD, great DVD.
Yeah. Well, the one that I'm going to pull out, and this is the one.
This I can't wait.
This is the one that sold me on country music. Is Buck Owens and the Buckaroos live at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what.
What's
Willie
that?
Cantu on drums showed me how to play country shuffle.
Yeah. Now,
Listening
what's
to
the
that.
guy? What's the guy that sung harmony with him the whole time? What was his name?
Don Rich.
Don Rich,
He's a guitar player.
guitar player. He sung all them parts with him. I
Yep.
mean, unreal, dude. I mean, them guys. That's very underrated too, because most people think Buck Owens, they think, you know, hee haw, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really dig into what he was doing. And I mean, you know, go back and listen to some of that stuff. It's
Oh
crazy.
my God, man. Yeah,
I mean,
it is. It is.
especially for the time, you know. I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
what, 60s?
Yeah, this live at Carnegie Hall was probably 65, 66.
Yeah. I
And,
mean,
you know, I met Willie Cantu in Nashville. And when I met him, it was on Broadway where we were, both of us were running up and down the street, just checking out and sitting in and stuff like that.
yeah.
I ran across him and I noticed the reason why I realized it was him. Walked into the Loretta Lynn's and he was getting ready to set in and he had to switch the whole kit around to be left-handed.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is him. And when he got done, I walked up and introduced myself. He's like, yeah, we just went walking up and down Broadway a little bit talking.
Nice.
Like, yeah. But I mean, he's just like,
That's a good pick, man. I mean, Buck Owens, man. You know? I wasn't expecting it, but I understand it. I do.
oh, yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
a few that didn't quite make my list. I'm going to throw them out there just because they mean a lot to me. And I will say, the Allman Brothers, that was one. You said that one earlier. I'm going to go with Yes Songs from '73.
Yeah.
Alan White comes in, and
Yeah.
you know what a performance that was.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was younger, much younger, I remember looking at Judas Priest Unleashed in the East album and thinking,
Uh-huh.
man, you know, they had that flying V on there, and they had the cool hair, everything was like smoke coming up, and I'm like, man, and it was a great album, you know. I'll never forget that. That was one of my first experiences of looking at like a heavy rock band, and I'm thinking, man, I want to do that. Then I got Joe Bonamassa at Rock Palace because I liked what he had. I liked when Eric Czar was on bass with him. It was really cool. That was some
Yeah,
good
see,
stuff.
my Bonamassa exposures. I mean, I've heard some of his solo stuff, but I haven't really dug into him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still old school as far as like Eric Clapton and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah. Well, you should go check
uh,
out his Rock Palace from 2005.
I do love the stuff he did with Black Country Communion.
Yeah, Black Country
Oh my
Communion.
God.
Yeah, with Glenn
Oh my
Hughes.
God. You know,
It's good stuff, dude.
you know, what could you say? And then we could go.
He's all around, dude. He can do anything. He is like one of the best guitar players, man.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he's like, guitar player I worked with for years, Tom Jones. I mean, he was nothing but a guitar nerd, man.
Right.
He just stayed home. Everybody else is out playing football or going to the beach. He's at home with his guitar.
Exactly. Trying to get that right sound.
Yeah.
And I got a couple more. I got Sade, both of her live, Lovers Live, and the one from '94. I mean, Sade, great drummer, great bass player. Love their song structures, everything about them. Just total, total great musicians. And then I got this one here, and this one I remember because you guys had this album. You had the posters on the wall. I'll never forget the posters. And by the way, I'm looking at some of these, and I'll tell you in a minute. But this is the Eagles Live from 1980. I remember the red road case. That's the album with Don Felder. I always thought, Don Felder is always going to be one of my favorite all-time guitar players. He's, to me, he was the sound of the Eagles, especially.
Yeah, I think that was like a
it was like a double
from concerts that were done like 83 and 84, I believe.
Well, I think it was 76 and 80 because they had some with Randy Meisner and then they had some with Timothy B. Smith. So it was like a double thing. They had like one album had this and then the other.
Right.
But what a great album.
Janelle worked security for them on the Hotel California thing at the Scope.
Yeah.
Backstage.
That's great.
I don't think she met any of them, but she was doing security.
Yeah. Free concert. You get to see the Eagles for free in 1980.
I had to work at the bank.
Yeah. What a great thing. You got any more you want to mention that you didn't quite?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of them, like Emmylou Harris.
There's way too many.
and the Nash Ramblers. I've got that live CD, and my God, it's just incredible. I mean, musicianship all the way around.
I know.
And
there's so many that you can mention, man. I mean, you're talking live albums. I mean, I ain't even covering jazz or anything. I'm just covering ones that meant something to me when I was growing up. So, I mean, we could carry on this conversation again and do 20 or 30 more albums easily.
Well, I'll tell you something. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, another one I'll throw out there is the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
They did that big concert over there in England. I mean,
right.
And Jimmy Page showed up and got on stage with him. And,
talking about excitement. You got the Foo Fighters, you're going to have some excitement. That's a lot of energy on that stage.
Yeah, but he's another one that goes for the old school approach as far as recording and stuff. You don't hear tracking in their music.
And I mean, they even went back and started doing stuff from like Sun Studios, I believe.
Right. Well, he bought one of those big time studios like that. They had a lot of history in it.
Yeah, they wanted to go back to that old sound and they bought the studio, which is a great idea. I mean,
well, you can't beat the analog sound, and it's been proven that even though once the final mix down is done and it's done to digital, when you've used analog tape to record, the spectrum is a lot wider.
Yeah.
You've got that air on the top and you got that low end that's just picking you up and moving you. Well, even though it gets chopped in the final mix, it still sounds better than if you did everything digital from start to finish.
Well, I always like that live feel about a record anyway. I hate when something's so processed that you can tell.
Yep.
So I always like a live feel. So, and that's kind of why going back to this Wishbone Ash, I mean, that's kind of what they captured, and I like it. So
I'm hoping the next one we do is approach like that too. I mean, we've already talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, and I hope y'all enjoyed this conversation between us.
I got a little buzz while I'm sitting here talking.
So what we're going to do in the future, we're going to keep doing some more CD reviews, try to bring music to people that maybe not realizing that there's stuff out there. And I want to try to get this music out to people. Nobody's on the road right now. They're not promoting. So I want to dig in and try to send out, what we can, give some exposure to these bands that are putting out good music and people don't even know it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, like I say, I'm gonna give Wishbone Ash an 8.
yeah.
Double
Yeah, man.
thumbs up
I
on
think
it.
it was well worth the listen, and
Yeah.
I recommend it. So
Yeah.
let us know what y'all think out there. Subscribe, like, do whatever it is you do. Yell at us, tell us we're ugly, tell us we're we talk too much. Of
I
course, we
know I'm
that.
usually.
But look out for upcoming ones, and we'll get back to you later.
That's right. Good night, y'all. See you later.